There we go. And wait, where did I put the last... Ah, there it is. There's the last batch of... Oh, hello and welcome to the Marr Show. As you can see, I'm busy rearranging my video game shelf. It was a bit crowded, so I got myself another shelf exactly like these two and been rearranging, and I got more space to put in more games, which makes total sense, right? I love video games, I absolutely do. I mean, I don't play a whole lot of them all the time because life is so busy, but I love collecting games. I'm excited to play and to have, and actually I haven't really talked about much about how I started playing video games and what I'm collecting for, because a few years ago I was originally planning on doing a 100 video special about my life as a gamer, talking about how I started playing games, collecting and so forth. However, I kind of scrapped that video idea because I've been losing count of how many videos I had on the channel, and I didn't think that my story of how I started playing games wasn't really interesting, but I've been feeling great about talking about myself regardless if it's interesting or not, because it's my experience. So join me today on this special episode of the Marr Show as I talk about my time as a gamer and my video game collection. Just play that intro. So yes, my video game collection. Where the heck do I even start? I guess the most obvious place is discussing how I started playing video games. And I know for some people it's pretty obvious of how I started, but for those who don't know, I was born in March 19th, 1994, and I didn't start playing video games until I was around 3 or 4, I think I was. It's hard to remember, trying to remember being that young, but it's obvious that the very first video game system I ever played was the Nintendo 64. I love this system. It is such an amazing system, despite all the little hiccups around the system itself, such as the fact that it didn't have like a strong third-party support, and plus it was devoured by the original PlayStation. But I still love the system regardless, and I even love the little history about the system as well. But I played the heck of this as a kid. I played some of the classics like Super Mario 64, Star Fox 64, Diddy Kong Racing, but I also played a lot of other titles that some people may not know about, such as Duck Dodgers 64, Mickey Speedway USA, and it was such an amazing system. I loved this thing. And the control itself was great at the time. Now it's kind of a bulky. In fact, a little bit of an embarrassing story that I might get shunned for, but you know how most people played like this? Well, back when I first played the system, I didn't play like this because obviously a kid being 3 years old wouldn't know how to hold a system like this. Instead, back when I played the system, and still played a little bit during my teen years, I played the system with my hand covering the D-pad like this. I know it's shameful, it's disgraceful, disgusting, despicable even, but that's just how I played the Nintendo 64, and to be fair, I just rather played like this because holding it like this feels kind of awkward. But I don't really need this anymore because I was blessed with the Holy Pad 64, which is expensive as heck to get, but if you somehow get it, I recommend playing the system with this controller. It's amazing. And I played mostly the Nintendo 64 for the longest time during my youth because I didn't know anything about the other systems. Like, I didn't know about the original PlayStation or Sega Genesis or any other systems. I only knew about the Nintendo 64 for the longest time. That was until during the following months when I was about to turn 8 years old, I got in the newest Disney VHS tape. I can't remember which one it was. But you know how before the movie starts you had, like, you know, commercials playing? Well, before the actual film started for the VHS tape, there was a commercial for a game that was coming out for this machine that I never heard of. I didn't even know there was another video game console or anything, but the game looked amazing, and I wanted this game so badly, so for my 8th birthday, my mom got me the PlayStation 2 along with the original Kingdom Hearts. And even though I love the Nintendo 64, I think I have to give more credit to the PlayStation 2 for opening my eyes to how big games can be. First off, the PlayStation 2 was still is an amazing machine, but I mean, at the time, it just blew my mind, and Kingdom Hearts was the perfect game to really blew me away of how big video games can be, traversing into multiple Disney worlds and just seeing just big, glorious details and looking even better compared to games on the Nintendo 64. Games were looking better, the games themselves were getting even bigger, and not to mention there was many other great games on the system that I loved. Ratchet & Clank, Jak and Daxter, heck, Shadow of the Colossus. Just seeing those giant colossi and being able to climb on them was amazing for a kid at my age, and even blew my brother away as well. We both shared it, obviously. And not to mention, I was introduced to other video game systems like the original Xbox, the Nintendo GameCube. Even at school, just talking to others about games being released on the PlayStation 2, and of course, who can forget about the amazing television channel that was G4. The good one, before the cop shows happened. There was so many great shows on there, such as X-Play, where they talked about so many games coming out, doing reviews. There was also G4 Cheats, where they would tell you how to progress through games or how to unlock certain abilities, etc. But of course, during that time, I didn't really touch the Nintendo 64 at all. I was focusing on the brand new games and systems that were coming out. So I wasn't playing like replaying Super Mario 64 or Diddy Kong Racing. I was focusing on the new machines and the new games. But as the Wii, PlayStation 3, and the Xbox 360 was coming out, there was some changes going on. For the past few years, my mom and dad were divorced, and my mom took me and my brother and we moved. We didn't move out of state, we only moved like a few miles from where we originally lived at. So we were still able to go to the same school without having to change districts or anything, thank goodness. But of course, one revolutionary thing about moving was we got access to the internet, because me and my brother didn't have internet access at our original home in our trailer at the time, and we discovered YouTube, which opened my eyes to not only discovering people out there who loved Thomas the Tank Engine in my age, but also opened my eyes to the video game culture, or more specifically, retro video gaming. When I discovered about older systems such as the original Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and others, and to be fair, for some reason, I was more attracted to like the older systems than like what was coming out for like the PlayStation 3 or the Nintendo Wii, which is kind of odd because here I was focused on the games for like the GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2. But then when the newer systems were coming out and I was watching the retro gaming on YouTube, I was more into that than I was into the newer systems, which was odd to say the least, because I was in my like early teen years. But yeah, I was just so enthralled with like the history about the older systems, the history of Nintendo, one of my favorite video game companies, and how it all came about. And I loved looking up video game related content. Shows such as Angry Video Game Nerd, Gaming Historian, 2-Bit Gaming, and learning about the original Game Boy, or the history of like the messed up titles with the original Final Fantasies being renamed 1, 2, 3 instead of like 1, 4, and 6. And it wasn't just people talking about video games, just watching collab videos. Well, a video showcased like 100 Super Nintendo games. If it involved retro video games, you had my attention. And it's funny too, because after me and my brother moved, I lost my Nintendo 64. I didn't know where it went. I just had like the GameCube, PS2, and Xbox with me. That was until when I got into discovering video games and also discovering games for the system that I never heard of but considered groundbreaking, like Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Kazooie, games I never played as a kid. So when I was visiting my dad one of the weekends off and I was so retro video game fused, I saw that my dad kept the system with him and I asked if I could take it home, and he said yes. And I played the heck out of the Nintendo 64, and I had a better appreciation for the system and the games that were for it and how it helped evolutionize video games overall. And of course, this started a trend where I think everyone's guilty of this, I believe. But you know that type of age oh, that feeling when you're discovering older systems and you're collecting them, even if you don't know anything about the games, if you've seen gameplay footage, like, oh, that looks fun, and just want to play it. I was kind of that age, kind of like, it's kind of noobish a little bit. Looking back, like going to a store and like, retro video games. Oh, it's so beautiful. Come with me and you'll see in a world of your imagination. And to be fair, I got some pretty good deals out of some games. Like I got an Super Mario RPG for like 40 bucks. Conker's Bad 4 Day I remember getting for $50 just loose. Heck, one of the biggest things, and this is actually a pretty interesting story. When I was collecting Nintendo games, I discovered like the Atari 2600. It's like, oh man, that looks really cool, I would love to have it. But luckily my mom actually knew someone at work who was a video game collector himself and was selling some of his collection to make space, you know, to gain some extra money to help his family out. And he actually had an Atari 2600 along with 30 games, some of them that are actually boxed up, believe it or not. So I saved up money when I was working with my dad during the summer, getting ready to buy the system and the games from him. And I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it was close to either under or over 150 for the system and 30 games. Some of them that are still in the original box, and I think that's a great deal overall. I think I don't really know like the whole pricing details in like regards to Atari 2600, but I think that's a great deal. But I still like some of the newer games, like when the Nintendo Wii has Super Smash Bros. Brawl on it. I was like, oh, I need to get the Nintendo Wii. Or like the Wii U, heck, I still love the system, even though, yes, face it, it didn't do that well in terms of marketing. And yeah, I've just been collecting games ever since. I know it's not really that interesting, but for someone who was focused on the newer systems at first, then when I had internet and discovered the retro video game community, it's like, oh my gosh, I really like it. And now I'm just kind of to the point where I like both systems. I love collecting games for the older systems, and I love collecting games for the newer systems, games that I know I'm going to play, that I'm excited to play, or games I think have an interesting history lesson, and I think, well, I want to get this game because it has a unique history, or it's a fun game that has some unique details of what went on behind the scenes. What games or stuff am I looking for to collect? Is the reason why I'm collecting games in the first place? Am I just one of those scalpers that's like, yes, I'm going to collect all these games here, and in about 20 years they're going to be worth thousands of dollars? Oh, hell no. In fact, to be fair, I just don't like it when people do that. Like, those people who have all those box amiibos and are saving them just so that way they can scalp them and make tons of money later on. I just hate that, because I just want to collect games because I love video games. I love playing games that can just take me away from this reality, just even for like a little bit, and go into this major world and just have fun, or give me a little, just give me a little rush of energy in a really difficult game or something like that. But to be fair, there are 3 different categories I want to say of stuff that I am going to collect. Obviously, one of the first things I'm collecting is the amiibos. I just love those figurines. I mean, granted, they don't do a whole lot in terms of like, you know, stuff for the Nintendo games, but they are just really well detailed. I love some of the details of the figurines. Heck, if they were released when I was a kid, oh boy, you would talk about me eating them up. Not literally eating them up, but like have a strong connection to them, because as a kid, I always loved to have little figurines of like Mario, Donkey Kong, stuff like that, and those are perfect opportunities, and they're just really cool figurines overall, and I just love the video game characters in the Nintendo franchise. Heck, some of them aren't even Nintendo or wholly Nintendo, like the Shovel Knight amiibo. And obviously you can tell behind here that I love collecting games for the Nintendo 64. There's so many games on here that I love, and trying to do like a top 10 or like my 10 favorite Nintendo 64 games would be impossible, but it's something I've been debating about over the years. You know, do I want to go for whole Nintendo 64 games? Do I want to get all 296 games for the system? Because there's a lot of sports games, obviously, and to be fair, I wouldn't mind doing that because I love the system, the games, and the history of the console. And I think it'll be fun doing that, doing a whole collecting all the games. Plus, I think even though there's a lot of sports games on it, that doesn't mean there aren't any hidden gems within it, because heck, there are some games in a system that may be overwhelmed with sports titles or shovelware, but have maybe a few that can surprise you. Heck, Duck Dodger 64 and Mickey Speedway USA are two of my favorite games on the system, and not a whole lot of people really talk about them. They don't really bring them up. So I mean, there's bound to be even more hidden gem games buried underneath all the sports titles. So I think I wouldn't mind doing a whole complete N64, mostly the all 296 for US. Although to be fair, I'm definitely gonna get the whole, you know, those custom end labels that someone has made for the system, because like, I mean, I love the Nintendo 64, but really you couldn't do end labels? I mean, there's plenty of space to write down the system, the title on it. I mean, for goodness sake. But even though I am going for a whole complete amiibo set and getting all 296 NTSC Nintendo 64 games, most of the games I have on my shelf, like from my PlayStation Fleas, Nintendo Wii, 3DS, these are games that I know for a fact that I'm going to play at some point in my life, or wanting to play in my life, because life is short. Extremely short, and you're not going to be able to have time to play every single video game known to mankind, no matter how hard you try. And one of the things that kind of irks me a little bit is if someone out there asks me if I played, gee, I don't know, if I have not played Metal Gear Solid Flea, and I said no I haven't, they go, you have not played Metal Gear Solid Flea? Corner! Just go to the corner! You're grounded, mister! How dare you not play one of the best games ever! You're wasting your time with making videos for the Twitch and playing Donald Duck's quest to find the jewel to get a nice shag! How dare you not play Metal Gear Solid 3! Shame upon you! I absolutely hate it when people do that. And I know sometimes people like to cut up about it or anything like that, but for someone to say, you are an idiot, why have you not dared play a game when, even if I'm not even interested in a game and is so busy with life as I know it, it's impossible for me to do. And I'm collecting certain games out there that I want to try out because either I'm wanting to play at some point in my life or just because I love the game in general. I mean, video games are experiences, and I think if you love a game and you want to have that experience, you should have it. You should have on your shelf and say, I have that because I'm going to experience that at some point in my life and going to enjoy it. Heck, even if I buy a game because I'm interested in it and it doesn't turn out good at all, I'm still proud of owning it because I wanted to experience it, and trying to find that game, saving up money from my hard-earned cash and having it on my shelf, even if I paid like over the $50 budget, I think it's a very successful feeling, in my opinion. And there are some games on here that I will admit I haven't touched yet because I haven't gone to, or I'm not in the right mindset, but I'm proud that I have it because I want to experience that game some point in my life. And I think for a majority of my collection, that's pretty much about it. It's an experience that I'm looking forward to or loved having in my life. And I want to collect games that I know for a fact that I will love and will cherish and will have a bond with it some point in my life. Whether I buy a game 3 years ago and it's now playing it, I'm glad that I got it because I want to experience that game. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole agenda of how my whole video game collection is. From amiibos, Nintendo 64 to games I'm hoping to play some point before I die and go to heaven. Then that's pretty much about it. It may not be as interesting or in-depth, but it's special to me, and I think anyone who owns a collection should be proud of it. Whether you're a hardcore Sony person going for all 1,000 plus PS2 games, to someone who actually has a deep passion to the Virtual Boy, collecting the 20 plus games. I forgot how many games was on it, not a whole lot. And that's all the time we have for today, folks. So if you would like to leave your thoughts on about my video game collection and all, and what your thoughts, just comment below. And if you have a video game collection, what games do you collect for it? Are you a major hardcore Nintendo person going for a complete Super Nintendo set? Or are you someone who's collecting games who may not afford a whole lot, but just want to get games that they're excited to play some point soon in their life? Let me know, because it's a fun topic to talk about video game collections and video games in general. So thank you guys for joining me on this special video. It's a little bit different, but I think it's a fun video because, I mean, I don't really talk a whole about my persona on my video game collection as a whole, or what games I'm doing complete sets. I'm not gonna do like a complete Super Nintendo because gosh dang, that's expensive. But it's just fun and something that you love. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see y'all in the next Delmar Show episode. Bye bye!